All right, guys, welcome back to the Medium Cool Show. Today, we traveled to New York City. Then, we do a layover all the way down to the Amazon. Join us today as we talk about Cannibal Ferox from 1981, baby. Directed by the one and only legendary Italian exploitation director Umberto Lenzi.
Umberto
Lenzi. Today, we're joined by special guest Jake Mueller from the Cinebums Podcast. You've probably seen him before. Previously, we discussed...
another Lenzi movie.
Yeah, we discussed another Lenzi movie, Eaten Alive, from 1980.
Yeah, this is kind of a part two of that subgenre of horror movies that we're talking about.
Hell yeah.
You know, that movie, Umberto Lenzi has like a subgenre of cannibal movies, and both of these movies that he's made about cannibals, they start like the exact same way, where they start in New York City.
Yeah.
And there's a weird crime subplot, but then you get to the wilderness, and then shit just kind of pops off, and you have a great cannibal movie on your hands.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. This one, I think I enjoyed this one more than Eaten Alive.
I did too. This might be his magnum opus for cannibal movies.
Yeah. Umberto Lenzi has a really interesting filmography because he really did all of the subgenres of he was like a genre exploitation director, but he was really dabbing his toes at like every level with like, you know, the horror films, the giallos, the cannibal films, even like the crime thriller stuff, like a lot of like the crime thriller stuff, which I think probably, maybe besides the cannibal movies, but his most like critically acclaimed films were like the crime gangster exploitation films.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like Almost Human, High Crime, I think, and then I saw one, I forgot what it was called.
Isn't Nightmare City like a crime movie in a way?
Nightmare City is a cannibal movie.
Is it?
It's like a cannibal zombie movie.
Oh.
But it's like a zombie movie where the people, like the zombies use guns. Like the infected people use guns and they also eat people.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's like a hybrid. It's a really interesting, it's a really great movie.
Yeah, check it out. Nightmare Beach is really good too.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Nightmare Beach is dope too. But so in this movie, we have the legendary B-movie Italian actor Giovanni Lombardo Radice. He
probably plays the biggest scumbag genocidal maniac I've ever seen in Italian genre cinema. Is that like his forte? Like, what else has he kind of delved into? I feel like he's such a great, flawed, just menacing human being on screen.
Yeah, he's in a lot of films. Off the top of my head, he was in The City of the Living Dead.
Okay.
With Lucio Fulci, where he gets he gets killed in it with like the scene with like the drill going into his neck. Yeah.
It's an iconic kill.
Yeah, he gets killed. Like he's just kind of like he's on the same level as like someone like John Saxon.
Yeah.
But he's sort of just like in the mix with these Italian like exploitation pictures and shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were talking about they start off in New York. We're following a man who goes to like an apartment or some shit, and gets approached by, or what happens?
There's two people looking for him. It just kind of jumpstarts the fact that he goes missing, and he's one of the people on the island or in the wilderness, right? Like that's the whole point of it. It's just so they only use it as a catalyst for the cops to show up at the very end of the movie and save everybody. Like it's not a really useful like subplot of the movie. It's just kind of hilarious that they do it, and they cut back to it frequently. I couldn't tell you. I honestly don't remember, but the stuff in the wilderness with the cannibals is all really memorable. You know, dismemberment, animals being killed to death, literally, and it's kind of used as like a way to mirror like the horror happening with the people and the cannibals. Like it kind of reflects the animalistic nature of everything going on.
Yeah, this is a really violent film.
Extremely violent.
And there's sex.
Yeah, it was a lot of
There's
sex.
You see this girl, like there's two girls and a guy that go down to the Amazon. One of them is kind of like a ditzy kind of bimbo type character, like blonde girl.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is like a very like a SJW kind of like liberal arts girl who's like an academic who doesn't believe that cannibalism exists in the Amazon. And
she's trying to prove it as a conspiracy, right?
Yeah, she's trying to prove it as a myth. And then there's another guy there. Maybe it's two other
brother.
Yeah, her brother's there, and they go down to the Amazon. They're driving in,
like a Jeep type vehicle.
Yeah.
And then there's a shot that we noticed. They pick up like a porcupine type animal.
It's like an anteater, like a really cute little anteater.
Yeah, adorable little animal. And there's a shot where it's literally hanging by like a rope as they're going through like terrain.
Yeah.
And we had to rewind it because we thought it was. I said it was like a prop, but then we look back and it's a real fucking animal that they're literally like choking to death.
Yeah, there's literally, but yeah, they all, I think, the anteater gets killed because they just literally, it gets eaten by an anaconda.
Oh, dude.
Which I wonder how they filmed that. Like, do they find an anaconda like in the jungle, like that's alive,
that's what I said when we watched it.
And they just like put it in, and then they film it getting eaten.
I didn't see the credits, but I'm guessing that Umberto Lenzi hired like a animal wrangler or something to know how to make that scene happen, but it's so disturbing. Like you could tell everyone off set is like gone because it's probably they would be so traumatized, like the actors.
Yeah.
But they'll like cut to them reacting to it in clearly a different situation.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
Yeah, they're like,
but,
oh no,
poor little animal. As it gets his like head is just like oozes out fluid. You're like, oh my god, it's really fucked up.
The animal cruelty is. This is one of those movies that I haven't really seen anything like it besides maybe in a Cannibal Holocaust, but there might be more. There's a lot of animal cruelty.
Alive had that too, but just not to the extent of what we just watched.
Like this one, you have the anteater getting killed, and then you have that little fucking pig. What's the name? Like the hog.
It's a hog.
It's a little wild hog that gets stabbed by Giovanni Radice Lombardo's character.
No real reason.
Yeah, but that he actually. Umberto Lenzi told him, like, hey, I need you to kill this animal. And he was like, no, fuck no, I don't want to do it. And then he's like, why not? Like, Robert De Niro would do it. And he was like, no. De Niro. Yeah, he said, he dropped De Niro's name. This is in the trivia on IMDb. He said, he's like, yeah, Robert De Niro would do it. And he's like, no, fuck, Robert De Niro would fuck off. Like, he wouldn't.
No way would De Niro do
So I think it was a double that actually that plays.
You could tell.
Giovanni, that kills the fucking.
He just stabs a knife going in. He's like, ugh. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
There's a turtle that, remember the cannibals cook like a turtle stew and you see every bit of dismemberment. And do you feel queasy during those scenes?
Because I feel uncomfortable.
I feel way worse than that, than like
when you see like a nuts.
His dick, when he's got his dick cut off. That was more tame because that's a prosthetic.
Yeah, they're not doing real.
But they're actually killing animals, and like I winced pretty hard. I can get through it, but I can see other people like throwing up.
I it's not that like obviously nowadays that's a problem, but I think back in the day it was pretty normalized.
Of course, yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of rules around, the humane stuff, and just like being on sets was crazy. And I'm sure being in the Amazon made everyone like crazy as fuck. And he's just like, no, we got to get these shots to like make the movie just more like have more of a viscera to it. But I have a hard time watching the animal cruelty for sure.
I definitely do. I feel like there was like this pirate sort of mentality to that filmmaking where it's like we just do whatever the hell we want because there's no constraints. We're literally in the jungle with no studio breathing down their neck, so they feel like they can murder people and have as many like there's nude scenes in this movie that are not even they'll just be like talking and in the bed and just be naked. There's this exploitative nature to it, so like it's just like no holds bars, there's no rules.
And I think the story kind of has a little bit of some twists and turns to it too, where we kind of learn like, oh, people aren't who they say they are, and it's kind of has that same Cannibal Holocaust thing where it's like, oh, we think the cannibals are the bad people, but it's actually the people who like came in, like the people who came in from like America who are taking advantage of them and like doing violent shit to them. And we kind of have that twist with Giovanni Lombardo's Radice's character.
Yeah, the flashbacks. Really fucked up.
Where he's like torturing people. And then
dismembers.
And then he dismembers them and like cuts their eyes out and shit. And then he gets caught up and they fucking castrate him.
It's kind of satisfying though, because there's just like underlying message of this movie is like this imperialistic it kind of harks back to even like genocide of like Native Americans. Like U.S. and like Englishmen will always find a way to exploit and just completely take advantage of Native people, and I feel like that's always the underlying message with all these movies. And like and to me, Lenzi was just like, fuck these people, you know, like these white people coming in and like, because like they're definitely what's his name is definitely the clear like antagonist of this story.
Yeah. And like the really brutal kill though is when they take that big titty blonde woman who for some reason she's the only one that's naked in the entire movie. Like she gets topless the whole time.
Yeah. She's the busty one.
Yeah, she's the busty one, and then the other girl I guess is more of a serious actor, so she can't get naked, even though there's scenes where she's supposed to be naked but you never see tits. You know, but it's probably in her contract. She's like, no, I don't want to show my boobies because I have like standards or whatever. But the busty blonde girl who does like cocaine and gets fucked by Giovanni Umberto Lenzi, the kill of her where she's like hanging with the hooks through her titties, dude.
Pretty rough. Well, they show the hook going into her chest like very vividly.
Yeah.
She just kind of screams in terror and like you wince so hard. She's
being crucified. And basically, she's like bleeding through her tits, but she's like still alive, you know. And then she's the girl's like, please, just let her die, let her die. Yeah. Oh, and
it's hard to watch, man.
And then the spoiler alert, the Giovanni Radice death.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That was like actually really good. Where they like put him under like a table with a hole in it, and
it's
the
like a
scalp
noose,
is But this is out like so when he gets castrated, I guess they melt the wound. He gets castrated, and then they help him so he can't bleed to death. And then he's totally fine after that. He's like walking around and like
he's just kind of like groaning the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
I think they cut off like his hand too, right? At one point.
Oh yeah, they do.
Something else.
But he's like totally fine until they like grab him and they cut his head off through like a table.
Yeah. It's just they like draw out his death so much.
Yeah.
It's
like a revenge movie in a way.
It is, yeah. From the perspective of the Native people, which is really smart. In Eaten Alive, like it's just kind of gratuitous torture for the whole movie. There's not really any like underlying like there's no revenge element. There's nothing that really draws you in as much. This movie has like pretty rich like themes for a cannibal movie,
sure. And by the end of it, like the woman actually does have an arc because by the end she's like really traumatized, and the story of the cannibal myth, she changes the title to like cannibalism. It is real.
Yeah.
And then it's a freeze frame of her face.
She has like a dissertation that she wrote at college. It's like all these intellectuals and surrounding her, and she like sticks out like a sore thumb because like she actually experienced it. And it's like it's a big like mic drop moment. It's like duh, like freeze frame.
Yeah, and the music in this is pretty good too.
Yeah,
the music is actually really good.
It's really good.
It has like that kind of Fabio Frizzi, like Lucio Fulci. Like soundtrack, and I think this movie is a better, like it's not like documentary style, but there is like kind of more of a grit to it compared to Eaten Alive, which is a little bit more.
It's not as like camera work isn't as memorable. Like this movie has a lot of great Italians, you know, trademark zooms, and the edits are really smart. Like it's very well constructed.
It's very gritty.
Yeah.
And you just don't see that just like what I like about these movies is they're so rough around the edges, and they're just so like they really go there, and they're just so violent, and they're just not like, and this movie was on the Video Nasties list.
Yeah. Too. Well deserved.
Yeah, man. But nowadays if you're on the Video Nasties list, it's like it's a good thing. Because now you're like, oh, I want to go see that.
Yeah,
a lot of those films are great. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, I think this is one of the best from this genre that I have seen in terms of just its overall impact and maintaining artistry throughout it. Like it didn't delve so deep into like self-indulgence like other movies have been in that genre. You know, I think it's his most. Would you say it's like his most like well-regarded and popular movie, and like his?
It's definitely one of the most famous. It's one of the most famous cannibal movies for sure, and I think it's well deserved. Like this. And Cannibal Holocaust by Ruggiero Deodato. Those two, and I think Umberto Lenzi. Yeah, Anthropophagus might be my favorite cannibal movie because I think when I think about
it's really good.
I think about Anthropophagus a lot.
Yeah,
you know, even though it's not the best movie ever, but it's the movie I think about a lot.
I see that.
You know, so. Yeah, and I think Umberto Lenzi was credited with kind of creating because this movie came out at the height of the cannibal Italian boom. You know,
for sure.
And I think he made the first type cannibal movie that was popular with The Man from Deep River. And this movie was released in America. It was called Make Them Die Slowly.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
amazing title.
And then in Australia, it was called The Woman from Deep River.
Mm-hmm.
So
interesting.
Yeah, Umberto Lenzi is one of the most underrated directors of his time. You know, I love. Yeah, he made a lot of pictures and they were dope. You know, and yeah,
because even Joe D'Amato probably comes up more often than him when you talk about exploitation cinema from that era. And I love Joe D'Amato, but Lenzi's kind of like his second fiddle. Like I think he's just as good.
Yeah.
Speaking of D'Amato, though, I'd love to watch Emmanuel and the Cannibals with you. I think that's another. That's another trademark one that we have to see.
Yeah. What cannibal movie should we watch and talk about next? And if you haven't seen our video on Eaten Alive, go check that out because we talked about it last year. And Umberto Lenzi,
the guy.
Yeah,
we love him.